All right. Who'd like to start? Sorry. You're right. Maggie, go ahead.
She seems to be feeling better from a pain standpoint. I think, not necessarily a minute restriction, but our goal is just to see how mobile she will be in live action. So pain is getting better. Mobility in live action, we're not sure yet, so we'll just have to see.
Emily.
Um, Probably a little of both. I mean, I think familiarity in personnel, in actions, but also harder because they're a team that just they play their butts off and they're in a lot of games and they're continuing to get better and they're on, even though their quote unquote record doesn't show it, they're on a good trajectory. And I think that that's the thing that for us, we have to be locked into the fact that we can't take this team for granted. We have to show up. They've got multiple weapons, and there is going to be a time that it clicks for them, and we don't want that to be on our watch.
Vicky.
I'm really excited for her. I mean, she's put in the work. She's done her due process. She's taken advantage of her opportunity when it was given to her. So, if that happens for her, be really excited and proud for her.
Zach, right?
Yeah, I mean, Breezy same way. And I think with the setback that Breezy had with her injury and her ability to come back and be playing as strong and as looks like seamless as she is. I mean, it's just a testament to her hard work and again, somebody who's really approached her journey in USA basketball in a professional way. She's taken advantage of opportunities when she's been given. And so, yeah, I mean, that would be a really exciting for Breezy as well.
Megan.
I think the biggest thing is we've been able to get them in rotation. We're not the most athletically gifted team when it comes to just going and snatching offensive rebounds, but what we have been able to do is get them in rotation, off ball screening, on ball screening, making extra passes. And so if we're not hitting our shots, we're in position and we're running a little bit loose to be able to get some offensive rebound putbacks.
And then Doug.
I don't think there's been any more of an influence than there always is with her. You can't give her space. You got to force her to make tough twos. You got to force her to score downhill. You got to force her to score in the paint. We're not the team that's shooting the ball right now to be able to trade our twos for their threes. We just can't. And so from that standpoint, it's number one, you can't fall asleep when she doesn't have the ball in her hands. Number two, they're running a lot more off-ball screening action, using her as a screener, and then getting another screen for her. So you got to stay engaged. We can't afford to help in those situations. Help has to come from somewhere else, because she can get hot quickly, and we can't allow that. We got to live with the ones that she makes that are tough shots, but we can't allow any easy ones.
Doug, go ahead.
It's not just Indiana. Every team's fans coming and watching.
It's exciting. It's I think there's just an intersection of so many things. Certainly the influx of talent and star power, from the college level. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink. I mean, all of these players who, for most of their career, have engaged with these fans from a social media, perspective. And so that they've been able to grow the fan base from that perspective. And then that just carries over because there's a great following for all of these stars that are coming into our league. I think the other thing is we've been in this sort of natural progression. And I think I've said this before. I go back to, I felt the turning point in the bubble. We always say in the WNBA, in women's college basketball, right? It's like you get a fan there for the first time and then they're going to keep coming back. So when there was nothing else to do but watch basketball in the bubble, fans who might not have watched the WNBA before watched for the first time, and they kept coming back, and they brought their daughters and their sons, and they got them involved and hunted opportunities to continue to be engaged, and I think it started to take off. And then you have the influx of these superstars that are coming into the league, and it's just continuing this trajectory. And so I think it's a natural progression. We're getting a bump certainly with the star power in the league, and then these fans are seeing the star power that already exists in a way that they haven't before. And so I think that all that is really good. And what was the first part?
Just you guys are 9-1.
Yeah. I don't know that anybody would have looked at us and thought we'd be 9-1 at this point. We're still not playing our best basketball, especially offensively. Defensively, we're always going to keep ourselves in a ball game. Defensively, we're always going to give ourselves a chance, even when we have breakdowns, even when we aren't playing our best. But we can't put so much pressure on our defense to be the sole reason that we're coming away with victories, right? We've got to be able to give ourselves a cushion and be better offensively. Some of that's ball and player movement. Some of that is who we're looking for and what actions, what matchups we want to attack. And some of that's flat out just making shots. We're not shooting the ball particularly well, and we're getting some open looks. And we're not helping ourselves at the free throw line. Getting to the free throw line, I think we lead the league in free throw attempts, but are last in free throw percentage. I mean, these are things that we have to get better at to take some pressure off of our defense, because we saw it the other night. When you play really good offensive teams, you got to be able to score with them. And for us, we've got to be able to force teams into tough twos because we're not shooting the three as well as we'd like. This game is a 3-point shooting game right now, right? You got to be able to knock shots down from there. So, we got to keep getting better in those areas, and we got to stay sharp in the areas that we're already pretty good in.
Mark?
Well, I think defensively, there are times where we get soft at the point of our defense, and I, whether that's on ball screens in the action, whether that's off ball screen, getting caught, not being in the right position off the ball, so we're late already from the jump, not being, and we talk about our 3 A's. We anticipate, right, and we're attacking, right, and so we have an awareness. So if we don't have any of those things, then we're always reacting and we're not dictating. And so for us, I think that we've got to be able to sharpen those up on the defensive end of the floor. We got to be able to fight through multiple levels of effort. We got to help one another, in a way. And I felt like there were some times where we missed opportunities to do that. We're not going to have the size advantage on the perimeter. Certainly that was an issue, but more than anything, I felt like some of our off ball defense. Offensively, we had a lot we could watch. There were possessions where we were holding the ball. One person was holding the ball for 8 to 10 seconds. That's not a recipe for success, where the defense doesn't have to do anything. And when we did have advantage, whether it was in transition, whether it was on ball reversals, whether it was on extra passes, when we catch and hold, it allows them to set their defense again. And so, we've got to do a better job of setting and using screens with pace in our offense, with and without the ball. And we got to keep it moving. We're at our best when multiple players are touching the ball in a single possession and you don't know where that shot's coming from.
Maggie, then Emily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. Nobody wants to lose, certainly. But it is nice to not have everybody talking about that, and we can, kind of focus on, some areas that we need to continue to get better. Certainly these were some areas that we had lapses in even when we were winning. It just gets magnified a little bit more when you don't. So for us, we know that for us to get to a championship, which is where we want to go, we have to go through New York and Vegas, the teams that were there a year ago, right? So every opportunity we have to see where we stand against those teams and against all of those weapons. And that was a different New York team than we thought we were going to face without Sloot. And so they utilized those players in a different way. So for us to be able to quickly adjust, just to continue to do what we do best and not get stagnant in those things on both ends of the floor was good for us. So, every day we got to stack days. We got to build on being better than we were yesterday. We got to continue our positive momentum. And look, there's going to be times where we get knocked in the face and we've got to be able to respond.
Emily?
I don't know if it affects our rotation specifically, but she's just such a high motor player. I mean, she just, there were possessions where she was, it's seemingly a half court and able to crash in and get an offensive rebound, right? She's in constant motion, the way that she rim runs and she puts pressure on your defense in transition. Her activity level made it really, really difficult for us. So I don't know, that it affects our rotations as much. Maybe playing Katie Lou at the 4 allows us to utilize DB at the 4 a little bit more and match up that way. It's always tough when Dewana has to chase around guards that move a lot, right? I mean, she's year 15, 16 in this league. And I remember it was the same thing with Tamika as she got later in her career. It's, you don't want to have to chase around these 20 somethings all over the floor. And so if we can maybe make her life a little bit easier and play her in the middle of the floor a little bit, match up with the 4s, we might be able to use that lineup a little bit more.
We'll go to Zoom to end it. George, go ahead.
George Guay, the Jose Guay Sports Podcast. Coach, just want to ask in terms of Caitlin Clark, we all know she's drawn the most media attention in terms of athletes of this century. Just want to ask, it's really hard for your players to probably ignore the press coverage given social media and TV. As a coach, how do you try and reinforce your message of no matter who the player is, we're trying to win a basketball game?
I go back to this is a veteran team. So we're not really having to deal with the distractions in ways that you would with a young team. But our message every day is we respect everyone and fear no one. Right. That's every team. That's every player. These are the best players in the world. You have to respect everyone that steps on the floor any given night. We have to try to force them to do the things that they're uncomfortable doing, or maybe the numbers say that they're not as efficient in. And we also have to fear no one, right? We have to go out and we have to do our job no matter who the opponent is. I think we've got an added benefit because we have a veteran group, and it's not a message that needs continual reinforcement.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.